my name's Jacqueline Ristula, and to begin, I've retitled my presentation to Walk Around in Circles, Paratexts, Corporate Structure, and Remix on Cartoon Network. What I'm presenting on today is a small portion of my doctoral research on the cable channel Cartoon Network and tracing television animation and its value transformations from cable to streaming. I'm using Cartoon Network and its bumpers to examine how those particular television bumpers function as paratexts, reflect corporate structure, and function as remixes. Bumpers are the seemingly ephemeral media that play between programming and commercials during television broadcasts. As Cartoon Network bumpers are animated, we need to back up a bit and discuss a bit of television animation history for context before we dive into them. So to begin, we need to discuss a bit what do I mean by the phrase limited animation. So limited animation as an industry term and production practice emerges alongside the rise of television in the 1950s. The phrase refers to production practices where the amount of unique drawings per second of footage is reduced, in contrast to full animation where there is a unique drawing for every projected frame or every second frame. Limited animation creates unique drawings in intervals of every 3 or even more frames. Generally speaking, limited animation is associated with television, cheaper budgets, and more formalist tendencies, whereas full animation is associated with feature-length films, more robust budgets, and a greater sense of realism in the form of fluid character animation. As a result of these structuring binaries, full, limited, expensive, cheap, realist, formalist, limited animation has generally been devalued, certainly in the industry. Leonard Maltin once said television cartoon series are the Muzak of animation, and Warner Brothers animator Chuck Jones frequently derided limited animation as illustrated radio. Hanna-Barbera Productions, an animation television studio founded by former MGM animation directors William Hanna and Joseph Barbera, was the most prolific studio in limited animation for television. Hanna-Barbera is interesting for a number of reasons. Their limited animation, including repeated cycles of movement, is exemplary of the kinds of production methods that people were doing for television. They also dominated the animated television market. And then finally, their acquisition by media mogul Ted Turner in 1991 was the bedrock for the creation of Cartoon Network in 1992, to which I turn to now. What makes Cartoon Network so interesting is how it programs. Their programming blocks and bumpers curate network content and are highly memorable for fans of the channel. For this presentation, I'm focusing on a set of bumpers called Cartoon Network Groovies. These bumpers were essentially short music videos featuring Hanna-Barbera and Cartoon Network characters. They aired from around 1999 to around 2005, and they later moved to Cartoon Network's spin-off channel Boomerang, where they also aired. According to former Cartoon Network staffers, the channel didn't have many advertisers at the time, so these bumpers were made in part to fill up that airtime. For this presentation, I'll focus on just one of these shorts, which features the song Circles by alternative rock band Soul Coughing. By examining Circles in detail, we can see how these bumpers function as paratexts of the channel. We can see what they reflect in terms of corporate production and structure, and then we can also see how limited animation becomes remixed in the 1990s and onwards.
When the wind set down in funnel form and pulled you in,
How do these bumpers function as paratexts? These music videos play with a repetition of the lyrics and the repetition of images. The lyrics are about walking in circles, and that is indeed what these characters are doing, while also experiencing a bit of existential dread. As different Hanna-Barbera characters show up, they eventually are freed from this loop with the end of the song, and they walk off screen. As a paratextual element, this bumper works to curate the channel's audience and Cartoon Network's content. Paratexts, as Jonathan Gray writes, shape our consumption of media text. Circles, as a paratext, then, functions as a meta-commentary on Hanna-Barbera and its production methods of limited animation. In drawing our attention to the walk cycle and the recycling of backgrounds, again, key staples of production methods of limited animation. This bumper invites us then to pay attention to those production methods. It assumes a touch of sophistication from the audience, that you're in the know, and it influences them, arguably, to view the channel contents through that lens. In short, the bumper is tongue-in-cheek, and there's this kind of knowingness involved in the consumption of it. This is one of a number of different bumpers on Cartoon Network that lampshaded limited animation's production techniques.
The Scooby movies will return in a moment. Shaggy decided he had to make a few of his own script revisions. Prima donnas.
I mentioned earlier that bumpers are promotional materials, but what exactly are they promoting? In the case of Cartoon Network, these bumpers promote not just the shows, but in particular the characters. They also help establish the channel's brand identity. Other bumpers envision Cartoon Network as a workplace and later as a city where the characters live. While these bumpers function as paratexts, curating content to channel audiences, treated as ephemeral by the network, there are deep fan investment in these paratexts, which prompts a question of centrality. Paratexts, by their very meaning, are peripheral to the main text that they accompany. But for many fans, these bumpers are the main text. They are the kind of main event that you rewatch. Fans don't consume these through television's flow anymore. Instead, they meticulously archive these bumpers on YouTube and archive.org. There is a lot of fan interest in all sorts of Cartoon Network bumpers, from fan pages, YouTube accounts, and wiki activity spent meticulously documenting these ephemeral paratexts. Question 2, what do these bumpers reveal about corporate structure? Corporate ownership plays a huge part in the making of these bumpers. Circles is a song from a band signed with Warner Brothers Records, which itself was a part of the larger Time Warner conglomerate. That conglomerate, of course, acquired Turner Broadcasting System in 1996. At the time these bumpers were made, Warner Brothers Records was still part of the Time Warner conglomerate before being divested in 2004. Two songs from Soul Coughing's 1998 record, El Oso, were made into Groovies, these short music videos for Cartoon Network. In a recent interview, band member Mike Doughty attributed Warner Brothers Records president Stephen Baker as the key person really helping craft these videos and make sure they could be made. In short, much like other Cartoon Network content like Space Ghost Coast to Coast, this bumper, along with other Groovies, capitalize on the conglomerate IP and archive for their creation, not just the Hanna-Barbera archive of the image, but also this Warner Brothers archive of sound and music. This is especially revealing since Cartoon Network, again, was originally founded to rerun Hanna-Barbera archives, which were bought by Turner in 1991. And this is pretty relevant now as studios spend a fortune today to take back their rights to their own content for their own streaming platforms. Amazon just bought MGM, for example, but much of MGM's most famous films, such as Singing in the Rain, were bought up by Ted Turner all the way back in 1985. And those, again, are now owned by Warner Media. So in researching all of this, part of me is like, is it just me, or is Ted Turner sort of ahead of the curve here in recognizing, again, like the power of the archive, that you need to, you secure the ownership because you can milk that archive for like decades to come. Question 3. What does the remix of limited animation reveal to us? Animation scholar Paul Wells uses the concept of recombinancy to describe animation's transformations in the late 1950s. Limited animation made for television at the time had the ability to be recombined both on a material level, such as reusing walk cycles or reusing backgrounds, and at a programming level in terms of repackaging animation, reusing segments and shorts, and repackaging them into variety television formats. If recombinancy describes this transformation of animation in the late 50s, then remix describes what occurs in the 1990s. Remix here is meant in two ways. First, the form of remix through digital technology, such as nonlinear editing software. And second, the content of remix as an additive, new spin on old Hanna-Barbera properties. And some of these groovies were literally remixes. These bumpers are particularly interesting because they reuse older Hanna-Barbera properties and animation to stitch together new and make new content, in this case, a music video. A similar production method was used for the earlier Cartoon Network show Space Ghost Coast to Coast, which was made out of the old Space Ghost and Dino Boy show from the 60s. Very plainly, in examining animated channel bumpers, what do we learn from television here? Television logics of reuse and the importance of the archive is certainly on display here. Limited animation, in spite of this kind of dismissive or restrictive phrase, is in fact incredibly generative, and Cartoon Network programmers and producers tapped into that feature to make a channel and its indelible flow a fan favorite. This paper has discussed movement cycles and circles, again, literal loops of animation. I want to end here by talking a bit on how television animation can help us think through how animation and its loops manifest in our current media landscape. Loops are endemic to the digital media landscape that we live in today. A deeper understanding of limited animation, I think, can help unlock new perspectives of animated media and the logics of television. Much as digital media, such as GIFs, become central forms of expression on the internet, the GIF logic of loops, cycles, and repetitions, again, are strikingly reminiscent of limited animation and their production techniques. Limited animation, which is built in part to capitalize on the loop, I think can be used as a tool to analyze this kind of looping digital media. In my own case, I use GIFs frequently in teaching because they help easily break down movement and animation aesthetics. That the loop is a kind of meditative object that you can see a particular movement or see a particular form of affect that's captured in an animation GIF. The loop is a tool in animated television production, and recognizing this helps, I think, unlock new understandings of television and digital animation today.